The warning lights in Marcus Chen's cargo ship started flashing red 3 hours before everything went wrong. He was hauling mining equipment through a quiet sector of space when the main engine began making a sound it definitely should not make. Marcus knew ships well enough to know that grinding metal sounds meant expensive repairs. He checked his navigation screen and groaned. The nearest station was 2 days away at half speed and his engine was failing fast. But there was a planet nearby. Kethvara, the screen said. Marcus had never heard of it, but right now any landing spot looked good. The ship shook as he entered the atmosphere. Alarms screamed at him from every direction. Marcus fought with the controls, trying to keep the nose up. He was not going to die today over a cargo of drill parts and protein paste. The ground rushed up to meet him and he pulled back hard on the stick. The landing was rough. Very rough. The ship bounced twice, plowed through what looked like a purple forest, and finally slid to a stop in a clearing. Marcus sat in his chair for a moment, breathing hard. His hands shook. But he was alive and the ship was mostly in one piece. He grabbed his emergency kit and stepped outside. The air was breathable, which was good because his suit had torn during the crash. Marcus looked around. In the distance, he could see buildings. Lots of buildings. A city, maybe. Even better, he could see what looked like a massive structure made of crystal rising above everything else. Where there were buildings, there were people. Where there were people, there were communication systems. Marcus needed to call his company, file a report, and arrange for someone to fix his ship or tow it away. He also needed to call his insurance company, though he was pretty sure this crash was going to make his rates go up. He started walking toward the city. His left leg hurt and his shoulder felt wrong, but nothing seemed broken. Marcus had been in worse situations. There was that time his ship lost life support for 6 hours. Or the time he got stuck in a bathroom on a space station for an entire day. This was just another bad day at work. As he got closer to the city, Marcus noticed something strange. There were a lot of people around. Not just people, but hundreds of different kinds of aliens. He recognized some species from his cargo runs. The tall gray ones with 4 arms. The small blue ones that always traveled in groups. The ones that looked like walking crystals. But there were dozens of species he had never seen before. They were all moving in the same direction, toward the giant crystal structure. Many of them wore robes or ceremonial clothing. Some carried banners. Others walked in organized groups, chanting in languages Marcus did not understand. This looked like some kind of religious gathering. Marcus felt uncomfortable. He did not like crowds, and he really did not like religious crowds. But he needed to find a communication terminal, so he kept walking. The crowd grew thicker as he approached the crystal structure. Marcus realized it was not just a building. It was a temple. A huge temple made of material that seemed to glow from within. The walls were covered in writing he could not read, in symbols that hurt his eyes if he looked at them too long. At the front of the temple stood 2 massive gates. They were closed, sealed tight. The gates were made of the same crystal as the rest of the temple, but they looked different. They looked old. Really old. The kind of old that made Marcus think of museums and ancient Earth civilizations. A large crowd had gathered in front of the gates. They formed a half circle, leaving a clear path from the crowd to the gates themselves. Marcus saw what looked like religious leaders standing near the front, wearing elaborate robes in colors that seemed to shift and change. As Marcus pushed through the crowd, trying to find someone official-looking who could point him to a comm station, something happened. The crowd grew quiet. A figure walked forward from the group of religious leaders. It was tall, maybe 8 feet, with skin like polished stone and eyes that glowed with a soft golden light. The figure approached the gates slowly, with great ceremony. It raised its hands and placed them flat against the crystal surface. The crowd held its breath. Nothing happened. The gates remained closed. After a long moment, the figure lowered its hands and walked back to the crowd. Many in the crowd made sounds of disappointment. Another figure came forward. This one was smaller, covered in silver fur with 6 legs and a long tail. It touched the gates. Again, nothing happened. One by one, different beings approached the gates and touched them. Each time the gates stayed closed. Each time the crowd reacted with disappointment or sadness. Marcus watched this happen 5 or 6 times before he started looking around for an exit. This was clearly some kind of religious ritual and he did not belong here. He spotted what looked like a guard or official standing near the side of the crowd. The being wore something like a uniform and carried what might be a weapon. Good enough. Marcus started walking toward it, planning to ask about communication facilities. To reach the guard, Marcus had to walk past the front of the crowd. He was not paying attention to the gates anymore. He was focused on the guard, trying to remember the words in Galactic Common for crashed ship and need help. His comm device was in his hand, and he was checking it again, hoping it might suddenly start working. The path between the crowd and the gates was clear, so Marcus took it. It was the fastest way to reach the guard. He was about halfway across when his foot caught on something, maybe a stone or a piece of uneven ground. He stumbled forward, throwing out his hand to catch himself. His hand hit the crystal surface of the gate. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the gates began to glow. The light started where Marcus's hand touched the crystal and spread outward in waves of color. The symbols carved into the gates blazed with light, bright enough to make Marcus squint and pull his hand back. Behind him, the crowd gasped. It was not a small sound. It was thousands of voices gasping at once, a sound like a wave hitting a beach. The massive gates began to move. They swung inward, smooth and silent despite their enormous size. They opened wide, revealing a dark space beyond. Marcus stared at the open gates, confused. Then he looked at his hand. Then back at the gates. He had just been trying not to fall. What had he done? Behind him, the crowd erupted in chaos. Voices shouted in dozens of languages. Some beings fell to their knees. Others pushed forward, trying to get closer. The religious leaders stood frozen, staring at Marcus with expressions he could not read. Marcus looked at the open gates, then at the crowd, then at his hand again. This seemed important. This seemed very important, but he still did not understand what was happening. All he had wanted was to find a comm station and call for a tow ship. Instead, he had apparently opened some kind of sacred door that everyone else had been trying to open without success. This was going to be a much longer day than he had planned. Marcus stood in front of the open gate, still holding his broken comm device, still trying to understand what had just happened. The crowd behind him had gone from silent shock to loud chaos in about 3 seconds. Everyone was shouting, pointing, or staring at him with wide eyes. Several of the religious leaders rushed forward. They formed a circle around Marcus, blocking him from the rest of the crowd. One of them, the tall, stone-skinned being who had tried the gates first, looked down at Marcus with an expression that might have been awe or fear or both. "Who are you?" the being asked in Galactic Common. Its voice sounded like rocks grinding together, but the translator in Marcus's ear made the words clear enough. "Marcus Chen," he said. "Look, I'm sorry if I broke something. I just crashed my ship and I need to use a comm terminal. Is there someone I can talk to about that?" The religious leader did not seem to hear the question. "You opened the temple gates of first light. You are the one from the prophecy." The legend made flesh. Marcus blinked. "I'm a cargo pilot. I haul mining equipment. There's been a mistake." "There is no mistake," another religious leader said. "This one looked like a floating jellyfish, its body translucent and glowing. The gates have been sealed for 10,000 years. They open only for one whose legend echoes across time. You are that being?" "I really don't think I am," Marcus said. He was getting uncomfortable now. This was feeling less like a misunderstanding and more like a serious problem. "Listen, I just need to make a call. Can someone point me to a working comm station?" Before anyone could answer, more beings pushed through the crowd. These ones wore different uniforms, official-looking. Guards, Marcus realized. They formed a tighter circle around him and the religious leaders. "The temple district is now sealed," one of the guards announced in a voice loud enough for the whole crowd to hear. "No one enters or leaves until we understand what has occurred. This is by order of the High Council." The crowd erupted again, louder this time. Some beings tried to push forward. Others pulled out communication devices, clearly trying to send messages before the district lockdown took full effect. Marcus saw camera drones buzzing overhead, recording everything. This was getting worse by the second. One of the guards, a being with purple skin and too many eyes, turned to Marcus. "You will come with us. The High Council wishes to speak with you immediately." "Sure, okay," Marcus said. Maybe the High Council would have a comm station. Maybe they could help him sort this out and he could get back to dealing with his crashed ship. He let the guards escort him away from the gates, though he noticed they were very careful not to actually touch him. They led him through the crowd, which parted like water around them. Marcus felt every eye following him. Some beings reached out as if trying to touch him, but the guards pushed them back. One small creature, no taller than Marcus's knee, was crying. Marcus had no idea why. The guards took him to a building near the temple. It was smaller than the main structure, but still impressive. All white stone and gold decorations. Inside, the halls were cool and quiet, a sharp contrast to the chaos outside. They entered a large circular room. Around the wall stood dozens of beings, representing more species than Marcus could count. In the center of the room was a raised platform with several chairs. Some of the beings on the platform wore robes similar to the religious leaders outside. Others wore what looked like military uniforms or government clothes. "Bring him forward," a voice said. It came from a being that looked almost human, except for the silver eyes and the way its skin seemed to shimmer like oil on water. Marcus walked to the center of the circle, all eyes fixed on him. He felt very small and very out of place in his torn flight suit with its oil stains and patched elbows. "State your name and world of origin," the silver-eyed being said. Marcus Chen. "I'm from Earth, human. Look, there's been a big misunderstanding here. I just crashed my ship and I accidentally touched those gates while trying not to fall. I didn't mean to open anything." Murmurs ran around the room. Several beings leaned close to each other, whispering. One pulled out what looked like a data pad and began typing rapidly. "You claim you opened the temple gates by accident?" This question came from a different being, one that looked like an insect the size of a large dog. Its voice clicked and buzzed. "Yeah, I was just walking past and I tripped. I put my hand out and touched the gate to catch myself. I don't know why they opened. Maybe they were already unlocked." "The gates were sealed with Precursor technology," the silver-eyed being said. "They cannot simply unlock. According to 10,000 years of study and prophecy, they open only for one who has achieved true legendary status. A being whose deeds and name will echo across the ages." "What legendary deed have you accomplished, Marcus Chen of Earth?" Marcus thought about this. "I once delivered a cargo shipment 2 days early." That was pretty good. The room fell silent. It was not a comfortable silence. 2 days early," someone repeated slowly. "Yeah. There was a strike at the destination port and I heard about it before the official announcements. So I pushed my engines and got there before the strike started. The client was really happy. They gave me a bonus." Marcus paused. "Is that not what you meant by legendary?" The silver-eyed being closed its eyes as if in pain. "You have never saved a world from destruction?" "No." "Led armies to victory?" "I'm not in the military." "Discovered something that changed the course of civilization?" "I found a really good noodle place on station Kepler 7. Does that count?" "Made a great sacrifice for the good of others?" "I gave up my parking spot once for a ship that was leaking fuel. They needed it more than I did." The beings in the room looked at each other. Some seemed confused. Others seemed upset. One of the religious leaders looked like it might be sick. A being near the back stepped forward. This one wore a uniform covered in medals and ribbons. "Perhaps his ship's computer has records of his accomplishments. We should access his vessel's logs." "Good idea," Marcus said. "My ship is about 2 miles that way." He pointed. "It's pretty beat up from the crash, but the computer should still work. Fair warning though, the logs are really boring, mostly just cargo manifests and flight times." Several guards were dispatched to retrieve the ship's computer. While they waited, more beings asked Marcus questions. What planets had he visited? What battles had he fought? What great mysteries had he solved? What powerful enemies had he defeated? To each question, Marcus gave answers that seemed to disappoint or confuse his questioners. He had visited 43 planets, all of them boring trade stations or mining colonies. He had never fought in a battle. The only mystery he had ever solved was figuring out which crew member kept stealing his coffee. And the answer was everyone, because he bought the good stuff. The only enemy he regularly fought was the paperwork required for customs declarations. The guards returned with his ship's computer core. A technician plugged it into their systems and began reading through the logs. The room watched the screens as data scrolled past. "This cannot be correct," the technician said after several minutes. "These logs show only routine cargo runs. Basic deliveries. No combat, no exploration, no discovery. This being has not done anything remarkable at all." "Maybe the logs are corrupted," someone suggested. "I am checking the Earth Central database now," another technician said. "Searching for Marcus Chen, human cargo pilot." A pause. "I have found him. His record matches what he has told us. No military service. No scientific achievements. No political position. His employer rates him as satisfactory, usually on time. Usually. Marcus felt slightly offended by that. The silver-eyed being stood up from its chair. This is impossible. The gates cannot have opened for someone with no legendary achievements. There must be something we are missing. Some great deed hidden in his past. I'm telling you, I'm just a cargo pilot, Marcus said. I'm nobody special. This has to be some kind of mistake or malfunction. The temple gates do not malfunction, a religious leader said firmly. They were built by the Precursors, the oldest and wisest race in the galaxy's history. They do not make mistakes. Then maybe I'm not the one who opened them, Marcus suggested. Maybe someone else touched them at the same time and you just didn't see it. Every eye in that crowd was watching the gates, the insect being said. Camera drones recorded from every angle. You were the only one who touched them. You and you alone opened the gates. Marcus ran his hand through his hair, frustrated. This was supposed to be a simple day. Deliver cargo, collect payment, move on to the next job. Now he was stuck in some kind of religious crisis that he did not understand and could not escape. Look, he said, I don't know what to tell you. I'm just a regular guy trying to do his job. Maybe your prophecy is wrong. Maybe the gates aren't as special as you think. Or maybe they're broken, but I'm not a legend. I'm barely qualified to fly my ship. The beings in the room exchanged glances. Marcus got the feeling that he had just made everything worse somehow. The High Council kept Marcus in a room for 3 days while they investigated. It was a nice room, as rooms go. Comfortable bed, good food, a window that looked out over the temple district. But it was still locked from the outside, and guards stood at the door. Marcus was, for all practical purposes, a prisoner. He spent most of his time trying to fix his comm device and worrying about his ship. Every day he was stuck here was another day without income. His rent was due next week. His insurance company was probably already sending him angry messages about the crash. His boss was definitely going to be upset about the delayed delivery. On the 4th day, the silver-eyed being came to his room. Its name was Ambassador Velthar, Marcus had learned. It was one of the most powerful beings in the Galactic Assembly. We have been studying your species, Velthar said without greeting. We have made some disturbing discoveries. Disturbing how? Marcus asked. He was sitting on the bed, still trying to get his comm device to work. Your planet should not exist, Velthar said flatly. Or rather, life on your planet should not exist. Certainly intelligent life should not exist. Marcus looked up from his comm device. I'm pretty sure Earth exists. I grew up there. Your planet has been hit by at least 5 mass extinction events, Velthar continued, pacing around the room. Asteroid impacts, volcanic eruptions, ice ages. Any one of these events should have ended all life on your world. Yet life persisted. It adapted. It survived. Life finds a way, Marcus said with a shrug. That's what my biology teacher used to say. That phrase should be impossible, Velthar said. For most species, life does not find a way. Life ends. When the Kathrani homeworld experienced a volcanic winter, 90% of their species died. They survived only because an advanced civilization found them and evacuated the survivors. Your species had no such help, yet you survived, not once but 5 times. We're pretty stubborn, I guess. It is not stubbornness. It is something deeper. Velthar pulled out a datapad and showed it to Marcus. Your species evolved from creatures that were prey animals. Small, weak, with no natural weapons. By all logic, you should have died out millions of years ago. Instead, you became the dominant species on your planet. We got smart, Marcus said. Figured out tools, fire, that sort of thing. Every species becomes intelligent in its own way, Velthar said. But your species did something different. You did not just adapt to your environment. You changed it. You conquered it. You took a planet that was actively trying to kill you and you made it yours. Marcus was not sure where this was going. Is that weird? It is unprecedented, Velthar said. Most species develop intelligence to better fit their niche in the ecosystem. Your species developed intelligence to eliminate the concept of niches. You lived in frozen wastelands and burning deserts. You crossed oceans in wooden boats that should have sunk. You climbed mountains that should have killed you. You did all of this with stone tools and animal skins. My ancestors were pretty tough, yeah. It is not just toughness, Velthar said, and Marcus heard frustration in its voice. It is this constant refusal to accept limitations. When faced with the impossible, most species acknowledge it and find another path. Your species looks at the impossible and decides to do it anyway. Marcus thought about this. So you're saying humans are stubborn? I am saying humans are insane, Velthar said. We accessed your historical records. We found accounts of your people doing things that no rational being would attempt. Climbing the tallest mountain on your planet for no reason except to see if it could be done. Traveling to the deepest part of your ocean in vessels that could have been crushed at any moment. Launching themselves into space in primitive rockets that had a significant chance of exploding. The early space program was pretty dangerous, Marcus admitted. Dangerous? Velthar's voice rose. Your first astronauts rode on top of modified weapons. Bombs pointed at the sky. The survival rate for early human space travel was barely 70%. No other species would have continued such a program after the first deaths. Humans shrugged and kept going. Well, space is important. It's worth some risk. You travel faster than light while eating sandwiches, Velthar said. Do you understand how insane that is? FTL travel manipulates the fabric of space-time. One small error can tear a ship apart or send it into a dimension where physics works differently. Most species treat FTL with religious reverence. There are prayers and ceremonies before each jump. Your species uses it to commute to work. Marcus felt defensive now. FTL is safe if you follow the protocols. I've done thousands of jumps without any problems. You have survived thousands of events that could have killed you, Velthar corrected. And you consider this normal. This is what we are trying to understand. To you, survival is routine. To you, doing the impossible is simply another day. A thought occurred to Marcus. Is this about the gates? You think they opened because humans do impossible things? We consulted with the galaxy's leading experts on Precursor technology, Velthar said. We brought in scholars who have spent their entire lives studying the temple. And we examined you more closely. We discovered something about your biology. What about it? You are more resilient than any species we have encountered, Velthar said. Your body can survive extreme temperatures. You can go days without water and weeks without food. You heal from injuries that would kill most beings. You carry a skeleton inside your body for structural support, which allows you to take physical punishment that would shatter species with external skeletons. I mean, I've broken a bone or two, Marcus said. It's not that big a deal. You broke your arm as a child according to your medical records, Velthar said. It healed incorrectly and had to be rebroken and set again. This happened twice. You were 8 years old. Most species would have died from the pain and shock. You kept playing sports. Kids are tough. We bounce back. Your immune system is extremely aggressive, Velthar continued. You can eat food that contains mild toxins without any effect. You regularly consume substances that are poison to other species. Alcohol, caffeine, capsaicin. You consume these for pleasure. I really need coffee right now. Actually, Marcus said. Velthar ignored this. We also learned about your star. Your sun emits deadly radiation. It causes cancer. It damages DNA. It can literally kill you if you are exposed for too long. Most species would evolve on worlds where their star was safer. Your species evolved to tolerate this radiation. More than tolerate. You need it. You become sick without it. Vitamin D, Marcus said. Yeah, I should probably take supplements more often. You treat deadly radiation exposure as a vitamin deficiency, Velthar said quietly. This is what I mean. The things that should kill you are routine to you. Marcus was starting to understand. So you think the gates opened because humans are tough? We think the gates opened because humans represent something the precursors were looking for, Velthar said. The prophecy says the gates will open for a legend. We interpreted this as meaning a being who had accomplished legendary deeds. But perhaps we were wrong. Perhaps the gates were looking for something else. Like what? A species with legendary survival, legendary persistence, legendary refusal to accept defeat. Velthar sat down in a chair across from Marcus. The precursors were said to be the most advanced race in galactic history. They built wonders that we still do not understand. And then they vanished. Perhaps they were looking for a species that could succeed where they failed. A species that would not give up no matter what challenges they faced. Marcus thought about this. It seemed like a stretch to him. I'm still just a cargo pilot. Yes, Velthar said. An ordinary human cargo pilot. That is precisely what makes this significant. You are not a hero of your species. You are not a great warrior or scientist. You are average. Yet you opened the gates, which means any human might have opened them. The implications of this seem to hit them both at the same time. If any human can open the gates, Velthar said slowly, Then what could your actual heroes do? Your warriors? Your scientists? Your leaders? Marcus did not have an answer for that. We need to know what is beyond the gates, Velthar said. The inner sanctum of the temple has been sealed for 10,000 years. Countless expeditions have tried to open those gates. All have failed. But you walked through them without even trying. I haven't gone past the gates, Marcus said. I turned around as soon as I realized something weird was happening. We need you to go back, Velthar said. We need to know what the precursors left behind, and you are the only being who can access it. Marcus looked at his broken comm device, then at the window, then back at Velthar. And if I say no? Then the galaxy will continue in ignorance of whatever knowledge or technology lies within, Velthar said. And you will remain here in this room while the High Council debates what to do with you. This could take years, Marcus sighed. He really just wanted to fix his ship and get back to work. But it seemed like that was not going to happen anytime soon. Fine. I'll go look at whatever is past those gates. But afterward, I need help getting my ship repaired. And I need to call my boss. He's probably really angry by now. Agreed, Velthar said. After we understand what lies within the temple, you will have all the assistance you require. Marcus Stowe. They returned to the temple gates with a full escort. Marcus, Velthar, and a dozen of the galaxy's most important religious leaders and scholars walked through the crowded temple district. News had spread across the entire galaxy by now. Every species knew that a human had opened the gates. Ships from thousands of worlds had arrived in orbit around Kethvara, all carrying beings who wanted to witness what would happen next. The crowd outside the temple had grown massive. Marcus estimated there were at least 1 million beings packed into the district, maybe more. They had to push through slowly with guards clearing a path. Many in the crowd reached out toward Marcus as he passed. Some called out to him in languages he did not understand. Others simply stared in silence. It made Marcus deeply uncomfortable. He was not good with crowds even in normal circumstances. This was far from normal circumstances. The gates still stood open, exactly as they had been when Marcus accidentally opened them days ago. No one had dared to enter. The darkness beyond. The gates seemed absolute, swallowing any light that tried to penetrate it. One of the scholars, a being that looked like a floating brain in a jar of liquid, drifted close to Marcus. We will document everything you see, it said in a bubbling voice. We have given you a camera that will record your visual perspective. Please describe everything you encounter. Marcus looked at the small device they had attached to his torn flight suit. Sure. But I'm not great at describing things. I once called in a maintenance request, and the mechanic showed up with the wrong parts because I explained the problem badly. Do your best, the scholar said. Velthar stepped beside Marcus. I will accompany you inside, as will Scholar Primus and High Priest Gorthon. The silver-eyed being gestured to the brain in jar and a massive creature covered in stone-like plates. The more the merrier, Marcus said, though he would have preferred to go alone. Groups made everything more complicated. They approached the gates together. Marcus reached the threshold first and paused. The darkness beyond was so complete it looked solid, like a wall of black paint. He could not see anything past it. Here goes nothing, Marcus muttered. He stepped through. The darkness lasted only a moment. As soon as Marcus crossed the threshold, lights flickered to life. They were soft and white, coming from the walls and ceiling. The passage beyond the gates was wide, maybe 20 feet across, with smooth walls covered in more of those symbols that hurt to look at directly. Behind him, Velthar, Primus, and Gorthon followed. All three stopped and stared around in wonder. 10,000 years, Gorthon rumbled. 10,000 years these halls have been dark, and they light up for a human cargo pilot. I'm just here to look around, Marcus said. Try not to touch anything important. They walked forward. The passage sloped gently downward. Every few feet, more lights activated as they approached, creating a bubble of illumination that moved with them. Behind them, the lights stayed on, creating a path back to the entrance. The walls were covered with images now. Not writing, but pictures. They showed beings that looked vaguely humanoid but wrong in ways Marcus could not quite define. Too tall, maybe, or too thin, with too many joints in their limbs. These must be the precursors, Marcus thought. The images showed the precursors building, creating. A sequence of pictures showed them constructing massive structures in space, terraforming dead planets, creating life where none had existed before. They were gods, Primus whispered. They were very advanced, Velthar corrected, but not gods. They were mortal, like us. The passage opened into a large chamber. It was circular with a high domed ceiling. In the center of the room stood a pillar of light. Not a light shining on something, but light itself, solid and glowing, forming a column from floor to ceiling. Around the walls of the chamber were more images. These ones showed the precursor civilization at its height. Cities that spanned entire continents. Ships that could cross the galaxy in days. Technology that seemed like magic. And then the images changed. They showed the precursors fighting, not against another species, but against each other. The pictures depicted destruction on a scale Marcus had trouble comprehending. Planets shattered, stars extinguished, entire solar systems torn apart. They destroyed themselves, Gorthon said quietly. Not completely, Velthar said, pointing to the next sequence of images. Look, the images showed the precursors rebuilding. But they looked different now, smaller somehow, diminished. The next pictures showed them building this temple, showed them creating the gates, and then showed them doing something that Marcus did not understand at first. They were changing. Their forms were becoming less solid, more transparent. In the final images, they were barely visible at all, like ghosts. They transcended, Primus said with awe. They evolved beyond physical form. Or they died in a different way, Velthar said. We cannot know for certain. Marcus approached the pillar of light in the center of the room. As he got closer, he realized it was not just light. There was something inside it. Data, maybe. Information compressed into pure energy. He reached out to touch it. Wait, Velthar called. We do not know if it is safe. Only one way to find out, Marcus said, and pressed his hand against the light. The pillar exploded outward in a wave of brightness. Marcus stumbled back, blinking spots from his eyes. When his vision cleared, the light had changed. It was no longer a pillar, but a sphere floating at eye level. And inside the sphere, images were forming. A figure appeared in the light. It looked like a precursor, but simplified, like a drawing instead of a photograph. When it spoke, Marcus heard the words in his own language, in his own thoughts. Greetings, Inheritor, the figure said. If you are hearing this, then you have passed the test. You have demonstrated the quality we sought, the quality we hoped would emerge somewhere in the galaxy after we were gone. What quality? Marcus asked. The figure seemed to hear him, though Marcus did not know if it was truly intelligent or just a very sophisticated recording. The ability to continue, it said. To persist in the face of impossibility, to refuse extinction, to adapt and overcome. This is what we learned too late. This is what destroyed us. The images in the sphere changed, showing the precursor civilization again. We became too advanced, the figure continued. We solved every problem we encountered. We eliminated disease, death, scarcity, suffering. We became comfortable. And in our comfort, we grew soft. The images showed precursor cities growing stagnant. When challenges arose, we no longer knew how to face them. We had forgotten how to struggle, how to adapt, how to change. So when we turned on each other, when our civilization fractured, we could not recover. We had lost the essential quality that had allowed us to rise in the first place. The ability to survive, Velthar said quietly. Precisely, the figure said. We built these gates as a test, a filter. We filled them with technology that could measure not just achievement, but potential. The potential to endure, to persist, to refuse defeat no matter the odds. We knew that somewhere, someday, a species would emerge that still possessed this quality. A species that had not grown soft in their advancement. A species that remembered how to struggle. The figure turned, its gaze directly on Marcus, which was eerie because it should not have been able to see him. You are that species, human. Every member of your kind carries the genetic memory of ancestors who survived the unsurvivable, who faced extinction again and again and refused to accept it, who looked at a hostile universe and decided to make it their home anyway. Marcus did not know what to say to that. We leave you our knowledge, the figure continued. Everything we learned, all our technology, all our science. But we also leave you a warning. The sphere's light dimmed slightly. Do not become what we became. Do not grow comfortable. Do not forget how to struggle. The moment you lose your ability to adapt, to change, to face challenges with determination instead of despair, you will begin to die as we did. The sphere pulsed once. The knowledge is yours to take, but use it wisely. Share it carefully. Remember that advancement without wisdom leads to destruction. The figure faded, and the sphere of light collapsed back into a pillar. But now Marcus could see things he had not noticed before. Around the walls of the chamber were doorways he had not seen in the dimmer light. Each one glowed softly, inviting exploration. Each door leads to a vault, Primus said, drifting forward to examine the nearest one. A repository of precursor knowledge on a different subject. Physics, biology, engineering. It is all here. This is beyond imagining, Gorthun said. This knowledge could advance galactic civilization by thousands of years. Marcus looked at the doors, then at his companions. Something in the Precursor's warning stuck with him. Use it wisely. Share it carefully. Maybe we shouldn't take it all at once, he said. The others turned to look at him. I mean, the Precursor said they advanced too fast and it destroyed them, Marcus explained. Maybe we should be careful. Start with one thing. Learn how to use it properly. Make sure we understand it before we move on to the next thing. That could take centuries, Velthar said. Better slow and safe than fast and dead, Marcus said. Right? Velthar stared at him for a long moment. Then slowly the silver-eyed being smiled. It was the first time Marcus had seen it smile. Perhaps the Gates chose correctly after all, Velthar said softly. The news of what they found spread across the galaxy in hours. The Precursors had left their entire accumulated knowledge as a gift, and a human had been the one to access it. The political implications were enormous. Species that had been major powers for thousands of years suddenly had to acknowledge that humans, the newcomers to galactic society, now controlled access to the greatest treasure in known history. Some species were angry, some were afraid. Many were both. The High Council convened an emergency session. Representatives from every major civilization gathered to debate what should be done. The discussion lasted 3 days and became heated many times. Some argued that the temple should be seized by force and its secrets distributed equally. Others insisted that the Precursor's choice of humans must be respected. Marcus was not invited to most of these discussions. He spent his time in his room, finally getting his comm device working and making the calls he had needed to make for over a week. His boss was, as expected, very angry about the delayed delivery. Marcus tried to explain about crashing on a holy planet and accidentally opening ancient alien gates, but his boss did not care about any of that. He just cared about the lost revenue and the angry client. Marcus was officially fired. His insurance company was also unhappy. They argued that crashing due to engine failure was covered, but crashing because he had diverted to an unauthorized landing site might void his policy. They would need to investigate. This could take months. His landlord had started eviction proceedings because his rent was late. So even though Marcus had technically become one of the most important humans in the galaxy, he was now unemployed, probably uninsured, and about to be homeless. He was sitting on his bed, trying to figure out how bad his financial situation really was, when Velthar came to see him. The council has reached a decision, the silver-eyed being said. Humanity will be given a permanent seat on the Council of Legends, a new governing body that will oversee the distribution of precursor knowledge. Your people will have significant influence over how this knowledge is shared with the galaxy. That's nice, Marcus said absently, looking at his datapad. Do you know how much it costs to ship a broken cargo vessel across 3 sectors? Because I just found out, and it's about 4 times what I thought. Velthar tilted its head. You are being offered a position of tremendous power and influence. Your species is being elevated to a status it would have taken centuries to achieve naturally, and you are concerned about shipping costs? I'm concerned about being homeless, Marcus said. Look, this whole prophecy thing is great for humanity as a species, I guess. But for me personally, it's been a disaster. I've lost my job, probably my insurance, and definitely my apartment. All because I crashed my ship and accidentally touched some gates. You opened the path to unlimited knowledge and advancement for all galactic civilization, Velthar said. Yeah, but I still have bills to pay, Marcus replied. Velthar was quiet for a moment. Then it did something Marcus did not expect. It laughed. The sound was strange, like wind chimes, but it was definitely a laugh. What's funny? Marcus asked. You are, Velthar said. The galaxy is remaking itself around the implications of your actions, and you are worried about rent. It is the most human thing I have encountered. Glad I could amuse you. I am not mocking you, Velthar said, sitting down. I am recognizing something important. You were correct about approaching the precursor knowledge slowly and carefully. Your suggestion showed wisdom. And do you know why you could make that suggestion when others could not? Because I'm not smart enough to be excited about ancient alien technology? Because you maintain perspective, Velthar corrected. You are not dazzled by power or possibility. You remain grounded in practical concerns. This is valuable. This is exactly what the galaxy needs as we begin to explore the precursor vaults. Marcus looked up from his datapad. What are you saying? I am saying that the Council wants you to serve as a guide and advisor, Velthar said. You are the only being who can freely access all areas of the temple. The gates respond to you. The knowledge vaults open for you. We need you to help us retrieve this knowledge safely and responsibly. I'm a cargo pilot. I don't know anything about ancient alien technology or galactic politics. Exactly, Velthar said. You are not invested in any particular outcome. You have no political allegiances beyond your own species, and even those seem loose. You think practically instead of ideologically. These qualities make you perfect for this role. What would I have to do? Help us select which knowledge to pursue first. Guide expeditions into the temple. Provide perspective when discussions become too abstract or heated. And help ensure we follow the Precursor's warning about advancing too quickly. Velthar paused. The position comes with significant compensation. Enough to more than cover your shipping costs and rent. Marcus thought about this. It sounded like a lot of responsibility, but it also sounded more interesting than hauling mining equipment through empty space. And he did need the money. Okay, he said. I'll do it. But I want some things in writing first. Salary, benefits, time off. I'm not getting stuck in another job where the employer takes advantage of me. Agreed, Velthar said. You will negotiate with the Council directly. I suspect you will find them very accommodating. Over the next few months, a new order emerged. The Council of Legends was formally established, with representatives from every major civilization. Humanity, despite being one of the youngest spacefaring species, held a permanent seat and significant influence. Marcus became what the media called the Keeper of the Temple. He spent his days exploring the precursor vaults, carefully documenting what he found. The Council debated which technologies to pursue first. They settled on medical advances, reasoning that healing and health were universal goods that posed minimal risk. The first precursor medical technology they implemented was a treatment for a disease that affected the Kathrani species. It had plagued them for generations, killing millions. The precursor treatment cured it completely within months. Success led to more careful exploration, physics knowledge that could improve space travel, agricultural techniques that could feed billions, clean energy that could power entire worlds without pollution. Each advance was tested thoroughly before being released. Each one was shared with multiple species, not hoarded by a few. It was slow work, frustratingly slow for many. Some species complained that humans were deliberately limiting progress to maintain their advantage. Others argued that the pace was still too fast, that they needed even more caution. Marcus ignored most of the politics. He did his job, explored the vaults, and wrote his reports. In his free time, he took flying lessons with newer, better ships. He got a nice apartment near the temple. He even started dating a Valethian engineer he met during one of the vault expeditions. Life was good, even if it was strange. One day, about a year after he had accidentally opened the gates, Marcus was back at the entrance to the temple. He was meeting with a group of young students from various species who were studying precursor history. They wanted to see the famous gates and hear the story directly from him. Marcus told them about the crash, about his confusion, about not knowing what was happening. The students listened with wide eyes, treating every word like sacred text. It made Marcus uncomfortable. "The important thing to understand," Marcus said at the end, "is that I'm not special. Any human could have opened these gates. Maybe any human could have walked through them. I just happened to be the one who was there." "But you made the right choices afterward," one student said, a small being with purple fur and large eyes. "You suggested caution when others wanted to rush. You maintained perspective when others lost it. That is why you are a legend." "I'm really not," Marcus said. "I'm just a guy doing a job." "Perhaps," another student said, this one tall and crystalline, "that is what makes you legendary. You do impossible things and treat them as routine. That is the human way." Marcus did not know how to respond to that, so he just shrugged. Later that evening, Marcus stood in front of the temple gates alone. He looked at them, these massive ancient structures that had changed his life completely. He thought about the precursors who had built them, about their warning, about their hope that someone would come along who remembered how to struggle and survive. He thought about Earth, with its ice ages and asteroid impacts and hostile environment, about his ancestors who had survived everything the universe threw at them, about the unbroken line of survival that led to him standing here. Maybe the students were right. Maybe just being human was enough to be legendary in its own way. Behind him, he heard footsteps. Velthar approached, carrying datapads with reports from the latest vault expedition. "Working late?" Marcus asked. "Always," Velthar replied. "The council wants to discuss opening a new vault next month." "The engineering one?" "We just finished implementing the last medical technology," Marcus said. "Maybe we should wait a bit longer. Make sure there are no unexpected side effects." "I suspected you would say that," Velthar said. "I agree, but the council is ego.